Hey y'all, it's Fran with Into the Marvelous Light. Have you ever had the narcissist to make fun of your hobbies, make fun of your talents, ridicule you about them, give you a hard time? I certainly have. Before we get into today's video, I'd like to take this time to say hello to the chosen ones, divine ones, empaths, light workers, kind hearted souls, all of God's children. If you can relate to the narcissist not taking any of your talents seriously or giving you any kind of recognition for them, then hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and let's talk about that today. So, as an empathic soul, we can pretty much feel things very deeply on a deeper level. And as introverts, we kind of hold a lot of our feelings inside, especially if we have gone through any type of trauma. And so, for me, I have learned to express my feelings through written language. So, writing poetry in particular. I also write skits and screenplays, short stories, essays, and just pretty much get all of my feelings out through writing because, as a way to cope with a lot of my trauma throughout my life, I have done something called repression. And it's basically like holding in your feelings and trying to pretty much act as if they are not there or they don't exist. So they end up kind of resurfacing and everything. And so to get them out, I will engage in writing. Now, the narcissist didn't really know that, I engaged in writing because I was getting my feelings out per se. Wasn't really concerned with that. But he happened to come across some of my poems and my writings, and he made the statement that my writings were stupid. Well, that is a very harsh thing to hear from your spouse, but that is what he said. So when you are trauma bonded to a narcissist, you will never really stop trying to gain their approval when you're with them. So one day my church asked me to write a poem for a program that they were putting on. And so I did write the poem, and they wanted me to write it and also recite it in front of the church for that program. So I did write the poem, and I asked the narcissist to come to the church to hear me recite the poem just for some support. And he declined the request. He refused to do it. And so I go to the church and I get up and recite my poem in front of the congregation without the support of any family. I am there on my own. So, as part of my testimony and as part of my healing journey, I want to share that poem with you today. What makes this poem dear to me is the fact that my church family gave me a standing ovation after I said the poem. And this is a completely different reaction from almost strangers versus my own supposed family, which was my husband at the time. What was also special about this poem was the fact that it was one of the first times in my life when I realized that my words could touch people. Not just my words, but words in general have the power to touch people emotionally. Words have the power to touch the heart. There's life and death in the tongue. It really moved me to see how much people could follow along with me with my emotions. You know, the words of the poem, the emotions of the poem, people were able to follow along with those emotions. So it made me connect with my church family, and it made me see that it is indeed possible to connect with others through a shared emotion. So, this particular program at my church was a Black History program. And so, this month is Black History Month. And so, I'd like to go ahead and read the poem to you. And this is what I want to say as a few disclaimers before I read the poem. I am not a spoken word poet, so I don't have a lot of inflection and different things like that in my voice. So, I don't have performative poetry here. By acknowledging Black History Month, I am in no way esteeming one race above the others. For most of my ancestry is East African. I do have Scandinavian and Central Asian, as well as Pacific Islander ancestry. The poem is entitled, Crushed Flowers Don't Die, They Bloom. From the thrones of Nubian kings and queens to the belly of the European slave ships, from being sold by our families to the long voyage across the Atlantic, from the auction blocks to the cotton fields, from baptizing in the river to praying for deliverance, from big house plantations to the Emancipation Proclamation, from the civil rights struggle to the right to vote and sit where we want, from all the mistreatment, hard times, obstacles, setbacks, adversities, to we shall overcome, from being denied the right to learn how to read to becoming great inventors, engineers, and scientists, from not being able to read recipes to somehow discovering that pieces of pork fat could be boiled with greens to season them to perfection. I want to pause right here just to let you know the reaction from the congregation. After I said that line about greens being seasoned, I heard a few snickers, and people got a little bit quiet because they weren't sure if they were okay to laugh or not. And so I kind of looked up and I scanned the room and I gave a nod, and the congregation erupted in laughter. It was almost like once they saw the two pastors laugh, then they knew it was okay to go ahead and laugh. But I found that moment to be quite a moment where I was able to connect with the audience. From having grandparents who were slaves to inventing such things as the traffic light, telephone, shoe lasting machine, and over 200 uses of the peanut. From not having schools to accept us to founding and establishing historically Black colleges and universities. From separate but equal and Brown versus Board of Education to affirmative action. From not having our African drums to beat to creating such musical genres as gospel, ragtime, blues, rock and roll, and jazz. From swing low, sweet chariot to big band, swing, and dancing. From slave quarters to farmhouses with land we own. From shacks with outhouses to the projects to middle class suburbia. From having our feet chained and chopped off to running and jumping and playing tennis and winning Olympic gold medals for this country. From unsung Black heroes who didn't get credit for their inventions to Black monuments and museums in our honor. From old Negro spirituals to spirits of a strong, determined people who will not die. From the trailblazers of yesterday to the current achievers of today. Mahalia Jackson begot Aretha Franklin, begot Jennifer Hudson. Duke Ellington begot Quincy Jones, begot Teddy Riley. Bessie Smith begot Lena Horne, begot Alicia Keys. Langston Hughes begot James Baldwin, begot Maya Angelou. Althea Gibson begot Arthur Ashe, begot Venus and Serena Williams. Sidney Poitier begot Denzel Washington, begot Will Smith. Jesse Owens begot Carl Lewis and Jackie Turner Kersey. Jackie Robinson begot David Justice, begot Sammy Sosa. James Brown begot Michael Jackson, begot Usher Raymond. And who begot you? And who will you beget? What is your place in Black history? And the legacy lives on. And the legacy is me. And the legacy is you. And who will your legacy be? And what will your legacy become? And so when I finished reciting my poem at church and I received that very warm standing ovation, a room full of people smiling and clapping for me. It made up for all of that mean-spiritedness and evilness and cold-heartedness that the narcissist showed to me when he spoke about the writings that I had from my heart. Matthew 12:50. For whosoever shall do the will of my Father which is in heaven, the same is my family. So that day in church, when I recited my poem, the church congregation was my family. And they showed me more love, more acceptance, more welcoming than my own spouse. In Luke chapter 4, verse number 24, Jesus said, Verily I say unto you, no prophet is accepted in his own country. And this scripture reminds me that my own spouse, the one who took a vow to love and cherish me and honor me, would not accept me, would not accept my feelings, would not accept any of my talents or my gifts. In Daniel chapter 5, there is a hand that appears and writes on the wall. Writing is very important. Writing is used to convey a great bit of messages. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. The 10 Commandments were written on tablets. When Satan tempted Jesus in the wilderness, Jesus responded by saying, It is written, it is written. We live by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Words are important, and that includes written words. Habakkuk 2:2. And the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that read it. Words are indeed powerful, even written words. If you are that quiet soul out there who prefers to write instead of talk, or prefers to put your feelings down on paper rather than express them out loud, don't let anybody make you feel ashamed for that. Don't listen to people who may call you weird or strange. We are called to be a peculiar people. Consider yourself very blessed if you are able to express your feelings and express your emotions through written words. If you have a talent for writing, don't hide it. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't stifle it. Let those words shine as a light. Let them shine as a marvelous light.